Joining me now, Ty Cobb, former White House attorney during Trump's first term. It's good to see you again, Ty. So you have this ballroom. It is still subject to litigation. Would a judge reviewing this case take last night's incident into consideration, do you think?
Not at all. We've never heard this argument before for the ballroom. Certainly the, tragic incident last night involving political violence, which, sadly is part of our culture in large part because of the gun issues that your guest, Kerry Kennedy, highlighted. Instead of talking about the real problems like guns, Trump has turned the incident into an advertisement for his vanity project. This ballroom is not being created to establish a safe place for him to celebrate himself. And the courts, have stopped it in large part, although it's proceeding under scrutiny at this stage of the game, and because of the fact that Trump ignored the law. He believes, as Stephen Miller and Stephen Vaught tell him every day, that he can do whatever he wants, and that's just not true, as we saw with tariffs, as we've seen with multiple deployments of ICE and the National Guard. The courts have stepped up and said, no, Mr. President, you can't do anything you want. There are laws to be followed. And here the issues are, is congressional approval required? Were adequate environmental and regulatory considerations addressed? And they weren't. So I think at some point, this will be reined in a little bit. It'll certainly be slowed down. Congress would likely, at least before the midterms, approve it for the president in a tight vote between the Mikey Johnson-controlled House and the Democrats. But at the same time, if that's to be the case, it needs to be done.
So Donald Trump is saying that the ballroom that he's building would have been a safer location. But the question to you, would a private event hosted by, as last night was, the White House Correspondents Association, would it actually have access to and be held in the White House ballroom? I mean, would this ballroom be used by non-governmental or non-White House events? Could any group rent the ballroom for the right price?
Highly unlikely, although if the price is paid to Trump and his family, perhaps so, as we've seen with the $4 billion to which he's enriched himself over the last 15 months. But no, and it's not likely to be, it's not likely to ever be used for a private event. To the extent it is, it'll be, a significant mega donor to the Republican Party to the extent it ever does get built. And with regard to the safety, this is him trying to merely pressure the courts into ignoring the law, as he's tried in connection with many other issues, threatening judges and trying to intimidate judges, trying to do anything to assimilate power within the presidency. And now he's taking over the White House Correspondents Association, dictating when they can have their event, insisting that it be rescheduled. All things that should be up to them independently. And frankly, why they would even do that for a man who has spent 15 months trying to destroy the First Amendment and criticized journalists, kicked him out of the Pentagon, and had his allies take over CBS and other media outlets. I have no idea, what level of complicity the White House Correspondents Group feels.
So can I ask you, based on your knowledge of the president, it has been suggested that the president's implying, hey, look, this would be the safest place. It's the best place for a president to be, or at least the best place for me to be if we had an event in the White House ballroom. That being said, that would indicate the president wouldn't get out in the public, would no longer be out there with Americans, touching base with constituents, losing a sense of touch with people if he were to harness himself in for all these events and stay safe at the White House. What's your thought on that? Does the president enjoy getting out there and talking to people, or would he rather have a sort of northern Mar-a-Lago set up for himself?
Well, he'd much rather have a northern Mar-a-Lago and have people, come to him and celebrate him on his turf. But he does like getting out. He loves spectacle. Anything that gives him the sense that he's all powerful, he does enjoy that. But we already see a little bit of that, Alex. I mean, he does hunker down in Mar-a-Lago. And keep in mind that, many in his cabinet and many high-ranking officials, hide on Coast Guard and military facilities now where they live. And Todd Blanche had to move his family to the bubble of nearby Mar-a-Lago and move them out of New York. So I think you see between, the Noams of the world, the Hegseths, the others, who are now hunkering down in secure facilities that, this is an administration that is hiding from the people. And it's in large part because they're taking advantage of us all.
Ty Cobb, always good to talk with you, which means I'll see you again soon. Thank you so much.
Can't wait. Thank you, Alex.